Hello and welcome back to the Book Marketing Tips and Author Success Podcast. This is Penny Sansevieri with my ever awesome co-host, Amy Cornell. We are both really fired up. We have very strong feelings about bestseller campaigns. And I had a conversation with an author just 2 days ago who asked me about bestseller campaigns. And Amy, honestly, I find it really, and I know that we sound like a bunch of bitter Bettys sometimes, but I find it really hard not to get on my soapbox when somebody says, I'm going to do a bestseller campaign. And part of the, look, we all love the bestseller flag, and we really want to unpack what these are, and not to say that they're scammy, although some of them are based in some things that you should probably stay away from, and we'll cover that in the show. We all want the bestseller flag. I mean, look, the Amazon author formula, and we did a show on this too. The Amazon author formula had the bestseller flag for 3 months. And every now and again, it pops up again. And I love it. I screen grab it all the time. I'm betting you that Amy probably has, and hopefully she has deleted them by now, she probably has 50 or more screenshots of my bestseller flag on my book. I get it. I love it. It's very exciting. But the problem is that it usually happens with something that is unethical. So bestseller campaigns, so years ago, before Amazon caught on to all of y'all, so bestseller campaigns used to be where you would invite all of your friends to go in at a certain time and buy a copy of the book, right? And a lot of times those were people that you worked with, right? So let's say you had 50 people at work, like, oh, buy a copy of my book at the same time. And Amazon was noticing that these sales would come often from groups with the same IP address, right? Or so you would hire this company as a consultant, and they would say, okay, well, here's how you do it. Here, you have to, buy all of your books, have a bunch of people buy your books, and you'll hit you'll get the bestseller flag, whatever. And then in some cases, they would have authors buy like 5,000 copies of their book in one fell swoop, which is a lot. Like I personally don't, I love my book. I do not want to get a delivery of 5,000 books at my, right? That's like, to some degree, that's like, oh my God, that's a storage nightmare for me. But Amazon went in and realized that people were doing this, and they said, okay, so all sales from the same IP address are going to show up as one sale. Can you imagine buying 5,000 copies of your book and having it show up as one book sale on Amazon? When this first started happening, how furious those people must have been, right?
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So a lot of this has to do with sneaky stuff that, frankly, Amazon has already caught on to, right? And Amy, you have a particular pet peeve around flags, right?
Yes. And the reason being is because I get, and now not trying to sound, like some altruistic hero or anything like that, but I really do get pissed. I get pissed when I find things that seem to be capitalizing on either like the general lack of industry knowledge that a lot of authors have. And I'm not saying that in a demeaning way, but they capitalize on that, or they capitalize on hopes and dreams. Like those two things really piss me off. And this is one of those things where a lot of companies that offer bestseller campaigns are trying to capitalize on the fact that authors don't really understand how these things work. And all they need is for you to click pay, and they're good. They don't care if you figure it out later. End of story. But the biggest issue, and what a lot of authors don't realize, is that bestseller flags come and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
They come and go all the time. Like, and to Penny's point about how many screenshots I have, it's 1 hour, you'll have a flag. A few hours later, it may be gone. It could pop back up the next morning and stay for a few days, and then it's gone again. And then, hey, maybe a flag pops up for a different category. Also exciting. But it's when it's done the right way, and when you're actually selling books that are going to count as sales, it is extremely unpredictable. So that bestseller flag can come and go. But the groups that often sell bestseller campaigns, this is like a fine print thing. All they owe you is that flag shows up once.
Yeah.
So if the flag shows up for an hour and you paid them a bunch of money, they're going to capture that screenshot. They're going to get the evidence and they're going to say, we did it. Thank you so much. We hope to work with you again. And that flag could be gone by the next day. And so all of the street cred or whatever you were planning on doing to capitalize on having a bestseller is no longer in your wheelhouse because that flag's already gone. You were a bestseller for a few hours and then the flag goes away and then you don't really have, the screenshot's great. Like we use our screenshots too to let people know that the book's doing well, but that can only take you so far. You're not going to be sending a bunch of traffic to your book the next week and that flag is going to be gone. So whatever you hope to achieve by getting that flag, a lot of times is not going to come to fruition because of how unpredictable the flag actually is.
Well, and what's interesting is that I had an author, this wasn't recently, I think this was a few years ago. I had an author tell me about a bestseller campaign that they had purchased. And in the fine print of the contract that they didn't find out until later, that it was on them to get a screenshot of the bestseller flag, right? I don't know why. I don't know what company this was. I don't know why they would put it on the author to do that. So, and they told her that, well, the bestseller flag can hit at any time. So you're up at 2:00 in the morning, like literally, she's like, I finally got my bestseller flag for a category and this is, I'm going to lead into this in a minute, but for a category that wasn't even my category at like 3 a.m. or something. It was the craziest thing. They were like, well, we're going to do this. You'll get a bestseller flag. But if you want proof of the bestseller flag, I guess that's how they put it. If you want proof of the bestseller flag, then you have to make sure. And you literally have to keep an eye on your book page like 24/7. Like what kind of a crazy request is that? But here's the other thing though, too, is that I don't mean to mention this in a bragging sense, but I did have a bestseller flag for my book for like 3-4 months. And like I said, every now and again, I get it again. But I did that and we did a podcast on that. So definitely if you're interested in learning more about that, you definitely want to tune in. But I did that because I found a great category that didn't have a huge amount of competition. But a lot of times what some of these companies will do is they will put you in a category where maybe it's like underwater basket weaving or something. And I don't know that underwater basket weaving is an actual category on Amazon. Amy might know that because I think she's been recently doing some optimizations for our authors.
I certainly haven't recommended it to anyone.
Right. But the issue is that you're putting yourself in, so you can put yourself into a category that isn't necessarily related to you. And maybe there's like 2 other books or something. And of course, it's going to be really easy to hit top of category when you're only competing with 1, 2, or a few titles, right?
Right. So your mom buys the book and you're a bestseller.
Right. How crazy is that? The other thing that you should know too, and I've discovered this recently, is bestseller flags, not only do they come and go, but they're also a little bit inconsistent. So I've had the Amazon author formula, and I noticed this with the Amazon author formula in particular, is that it would be number 1 in, let's say, book publishing or something, and I wouldn't have a flag. And it was really upsetting to me, I have to tell you, honestly. I was like, damn it, Amazon, where's my flag? Where's my flag? I'm number 1. So the flags are also kind of inconsistent, right? So I think that if you're thinking about doing this, and I know we sound like this big buzzkill show. I realize now, I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are going to think that we hate everybody else. We honestly don't hate everybody else. But I think if you're considering doing it, you want to ask some really smart questions about and read the really fine print. Like this poor woman who had to be up, take shifts with her husband at like 3 a.m. Let me just say this about that. I would not, I love my book. I would not be sitting up until 3 a.m. to get a screenshot of the bestseller flag. How crazy is that?
I know. But yeah, I agree with you, Penny. If anything, we just want to save you some heartache, candidly, and potentially some money. Because if you're hiring somebody specifically for that bestseller status and they don't really have a lot of else to offer you, then maybe reconsider, based on what you're learning here. Again, read the fine print, ask the smart questions, ask what the guarantees are,
Yeah.
get really good details on that, and just make sure you're making a more educated, decision going forward. And Penny, I think we owe them a fun little industry insider tidbit, because I feel like we haven't done that in a while, but
Oh my
I always
gosh.
love these stories.
Oh my gosh.
I always love these stories because I feel like even though I've heard a lot of them, you still manage to surprise me with things I have not yet heard.
So, oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So let me think about, so I'm going to just go with the one that's very top of mind just because it was so the person, I am not going to, I have to be really careful because I don't want to name names because otherwise I won't be able, Amy will be doing this podcast by herself while I try to dig myself out of a legal battle. But a very famous person had written a book for a publisher who shall also remain nameless. And the publisher, so typically New York publishers, they do sales meetings, right? So you have a sales meeting and you all get together and you talk about what's going on. So you have some guy that's dealing with bookstores, like the book's going to be in bookstores and book's going to be in Costco, or what's happening with the media and all this other stuff. So this very famous person had a book coming out, and it was actually launch week of the book. So the book was in launch week, and all the people in this 25 whatever people are in the sales meeting. And just like you would see in a movie, all of a sudden the door just flies open. And this very famous author, who, if I said the name, y'all would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it was that person, comes in and is mad as hell, right? And this author says, what the hell? And like expletives all over the place. What's going on with my book? And everybody, first off, everybody's like really shocked because what's this person even doing at the sales meeting? Like authors are never invited to these sales meetings. And so what this very famous author did is took their cell phone and started calling bookstores across the country asking for their own book. Like literally, so standing there on speakerphone, and everybody is just like blown away, like, because you don't know what to do, right? Like you can,
And so he was checking your work right in front of everybody,
yes,
essentially?
yes,
Oh my God.
yes. So this person is like, they're dialing up, like, I don't know, Barnes and Noble in Nebraska or something or whatever, or the flagship store in Southern California, and calling up and asking for their own book. And the bookstore person would say, no, we don't have the book. And that's what this person was so pissed off about, because they were expecting their book to be in every single store nationwide. And I believe so. The publisher actually, the editor rather of this particular book, told me the story. And the book was only being stocked in, because all publishers are based in New York. Well, at that time, the big ones were all based in New York. And the book was being stocked, I believe, almost exclusively in New York bookstores. But this particular author was expecting this. So anyway, so this goes on and on and on. And they keep trying to talk to this person, be like, this is a sales meeting. We're in the middle. Like, are you talking about my book? And this person was losing their absolute shit. As I said, expletives all over the place. What are you people doing? You're all losers. Like, just calling them out in a way that was, I mean, by today's standards, this person probably would have been in prison, right? I mean, just unbelievable, this unbelievable tirade, until somebody finally actually hauls this person out of the room. And this probably took, I think the editor told me this took at least 30 minutes. Like it was 30 minutes of this person just screaming, like just losing their absolute shit. What are you people doing? My book is blah, blah, blah. I would buy, and this person, got to consider this person's already famous, right? So I realize that you want your book to do well, but look, you're already famous. Like what, right? So the door closes, they escort the author out of the building with security, right? At security, clear this person out of the building. They close the door, and the publisher, the head of the publishing company, sits at the table, and everybody got really quiet because they were just like, oh my gosh, what just happened here? And all the publisher said was, kill it. And they killed the book. They pulled back on everything. They pulled back on the media. Yes.
And cancel everything.
They canceled everything. And this book was a complete and total flop. So the lesson, I personally think this is a hilarious story, just because, I feel really sorry for those people in the sales meeting, because I would have been horrified. Right. But at the same time, boys and girls, if you ever get a big publishing deal, do not follow the lesson of this author, because obviously that didn't end well. Yeah. All the publisher said was kill it, just like in this really, and the editor told me it was like this really just quiet voice, and they never talked about the book again.
Like right out of a movie.
I know, isn't that great? It's literally, it's very The Devil Wears Prada, right? It's just, yeah. So anyway, so that's true story. If you buy me a drink at a conference, I might be inclined to tell you who the author was, but otherwise, I can be bought, right? So that's the lesson here, that I'm not cheap, but I can't be bought with a Cosmo.
I love that though, but it also goes to show too, like, on a bigger scale, when you're nasty to people, bad things happen,
Amen to that.
Like, yeah.
And
bad things happen. And you never know what bad things those people can make happen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and when I actually have had in-house publicists at publishing companies say, they will go to the moon for authors who are nice to them. But if you are nasty to your publicist or your agent or your editor, you will go to the bottom of the pile. And in some cases, God forbid, like this author who just stormed into a conference room with no invitation, and just started losing his shit on every single person in that room, you will end up getting excommunicated. So, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they had multiple deals with this particular author. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that I don't know that this person ever published another book again. I don't know that was.
That's crazy.
Because the other thing is, publishing is a very small, weirdly small industry, and word really travels fast. And you don't even have to catch me at a conference. I bet you anybody who's in publishing will know the story, because it was pretty famous at the time. But anyway, I appreciate you all listening. And again, I've said this before in episodes, thank you so much for tuning in and spending time with us. And thanks for entertaining my stories, because obviously I love to tell stories. But please do share the show wherever to somebody who feels you can benefit from it. And we love reviews wherever you listen to podcasts. We got a long email review actually from an author who didn't post it on iTunes, unfortunately, but just sent us a note, and we were so appreciative. So if you're listening, thank you so much. We always appreciate fan feedback, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.